Hello, world, and welcome to this week's edition of the Marketing Happy Hour. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Christopher Vogelmann of drvogelmann.com and our digital agency called Epic Win Agency right there. And with me, as always, is my trusty
other trusty sidekick, John Paduchak.
One of that one right there.
Yeah, this one right here. Hi, everybody. Yeah, same thing, johnpaduchak.com and Epic Win Agency is our little joint agency we're working on here. So,
yeah, not that we're marketing joints, but, it is legal in California.
Yeah, well, some places.
And with us, our regular super guy, the man with the plan,
Dr. K.
Hello, guys. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Thank you. This is Coach K. I help entrepreneurs finish their projects. Simplify.zone is the website, and
just remember, you are never alone with Simplify.zone.
Yes, and speaking of joints, is it true that in some places they give you a joint if you get your vaccine, COVID vaccine?
I've not heard.
You haven't heard that?
That's
no.
Interesting. I know you can get a
tweet
donut
by Trevor Noah.
Is that something they're doing in Canada?
No, DC, I think.
I'm just kidding.
I think it was in DC. Trevor Noah tweeted that. But maybe.
Huh?
I can tell you that Krispy Kreme will give you a donut.
Okay.
In fact, and they will give you donuts if you prove that you've been vaccinated every day from now till December 31st. So you could have a donut a day and never be without your donut fix.
Interesting.
Like, yeah, you won't get COVID-19, but you get diabetes.
Well, yeah, but that's a different story. It's harder to spread diabetes. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, so today we thought that we would dive into something about all the mean people who are trying to take you down on the internet.
Yeah.
And how to stop them.
It's a good topic.
Well, John and I did a video not too long ago, which we probably should post with using the same slides, but I think we can have an in-depth conversation about certain things. You talked about Trevor Noah briefly. I was looking at something from Stephen Colbert on YouTube, and they were talking about, cybersecurity and all the latest stuff that, taking down the major meat processing plant, taking down the Colonial Pipeline for gasoline and all this stuff. And a lot of it's done just with simply recovering old email addresses and then just putting malicious, finding a back door and then sticking some malicious code in there, like ransomware.
Yes.
I've never been ransomed. Have you been ransomed, John?
I got an email once, a long time ago, that it said, "Hey, we have your password," and it was an old password of mine somewhere that I used somewhere. So it looked familiar, and it said, "We have your video of, self-satisfying yourself in front of the computer, and we're gonna send it to your." And the word that they said, "We're gonna send it to your kin, unless you give us this much money."
Your kin?
And I thought, okay. The sentencing and all of that is interesting. So I thought about it for a few seconds and for a few minutes. Then I thought, first of all, obviously this is spam and all of that. But yeah, if you have a video of me, send it to anyone you like.
So crazy.
I don't care. So I didn't reply or anything. And yeah, it was one of those things that they hacked into some Yahoo server somewhere and got a bunch of passwords.
By any chance, did they ask for $1 million? No.
Yes.
You know what? One of my
bajillion.
A bajillion.
I'll tell you one of my favorites, and this is a special one for me because there was a time where I was having some issues with Facebook, and I said, "You must have a support number, right?" So I'm looking around trying to find a support. There is no support phone number, but the number that is published is a cyber fraud number to a group in India that takes advantage of people who have had issues with Facebook. And so I discovered. And so not only is it a widely published number linking it to Facebook, and they've never corrected it, but it leads to basically an Indian group that works people over.
That reminds me, you guys remember many years ago, you could get those movie or CD subscriptions, basically pay for 2 and get 12 CDs, and it's a monthly membership. And
Columbia House was mine. I had a membership.
Right.
Yeah. So it's lots of people took advantage of that. So I heard of a guy that for his, when he was filling the form for his name and last name, he basically wrote, "I am going to rob you blind," and he sent it. And sure enough, they sent the CDs back to Mr. I'm gonna rob you blind.
Mr. I'm gonna rob you blind.
Yes.
That is great. Hey, so why don't we dig into a little bit of this?
Yeah.
As I said before, we had I think I've got it up still. Oh yeah, it's still there. So I'm going to lose sight of both of you because I have to go to a different screen. But I think you can see this.
We
yeah,
can
you
see
can.
you,
Yeah,
yes.
we can.
You can still see me. If I did this, you would only see the slides.
That's right.
So what do you want, gentlemen? You want this?
I think we
Yeah,
should be on the
like
side.
that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, leave us on the side.
Leave you on the side, a little on the side. So what I'm going to
Yes.
do is I'm going to take out, from the branding standpoint, I'm going to take out our little thing so you can see our little logo.
There you go. Oh, that's nice.
We're getting
Epic win.
we are getting sophisticated with an extra sophist.
I think that's the best logo you have ever designed, Chris. This is a winner.
Thank you. It was actually designed by a friend of mine.
You didn't design it.
Well, still the best logo that you have ever
It
designed.
is the best one. Well,
And
this
it's orange, your favorite color.
Oh, there you go.
orange.
No
You
wonder I
glad?
like it.
It's kind of red, yellow, orange. Yeah, it's got the orange to it. So
Yeah.
the story behind the logo is a simple one, which was I was actually working a lot in gamification consulting, and I was putting together a platform, and I had a business plan together to raise. This is long, long ago. I was raising, I think, $1.2 million or so to put this software project into play, and this was just before the .com bomb. So the business plan was sailing along, and I had some investors interested, and then the whole thing just collapsed. But the logo was still preserved, and so it was for the Epic Win Systems, which was a software package. And so I figured we just resurrect the Epic Win because I love this. It was playful. It's got a little cartoonish thing going on there, and it reminds me of the old Batman TV shows where they had pow, bam, splatter.
No. Epic Win.
You got it.
Exactly.
Adam West and Burt Ward time, baby.
Yep.
Anyway, so
No,
so that's
it's
where
a
that
very
came
good
from.
one. It has the right energy, right colors, easy to read,
Yeah.
and no, it's a winner.
It's a winner. It's an epic winner.
It's never
And
winning.
what I loved about it was actually the use of the exclamation point for the two eyes. So that to me was this. It was just a lot of fun.
And upside down.
And what?
And upside down.
Kind of, yeah. You could do it upside down.
Upside down.
It's an exclamation, but it's still an I. But the fact that there are 4 letters on the top, 3 at the bottom, one is a W, which is wider. Like there are so many things are going for.
So many things are happening here.
Yes.
But in terms of other things that are happening here, we're going to talk about protecting your website against hackers, because that's a happening type of thing. In fact, we have a couple people we know, John and I personally, who've actually had their websites attacked by bots. And that's a whole different story. We may get into that a little bit later, but this is the essentials of what you want to know. We can just talk about this as we move along. This was John and me. We basically did our little explanation of who we were. John's the video marketing strategist. What's that?
Batman and Robin.
Kind of, yeah. I don't know who's who in this one, actually. I don't know if I don't know which ones of us is wearing the right color tights. So, but if you're paying attention these days, as we hinted to earlier about, was it JBS? Is it JSB or JBS was the meatpacking company? The Colonial Pipeline and all the others. There's a lot of cybercrime going on nowadays, and you may think that, oh, I'm just a small fry, I'm a solo practice, or I just have a gas station, or I'm just running my own little detail shop. Who's ever going to mess with me? Well, the answer is lots of people want to mess with you.
You never know.
Yeah. So this was actually from last year. So it's talking about 2021, which we're in now. And then it's basically $6 trillion annually is what the cost is to businesses. Now, so the big thing from this is it's probably a lot more now. Just think of the disruption of the gasoline pipeline. That was something else.
Oh,
okay, I have a question about that number.
Yeah.
Is that the number lost, or is that the number that they need to invest to protect themselves against?
Well, it's cost, so it can be loss plus trying to protect you in terms of software and security and everything else like that. And it's one of those things where it's not going away. It's definitely not going away. Yikes is right. So the question is, what are you doing to protect yourself? So Kayvon, what do you do to protect yourself? I'll give you some of the things we do.
Well, one of the tools that I started to use from a few years ago for security purpose, but it also added a lot of convenience to my life is 1Password. You know, 1Password, or there are other ones.
We do LastPass, I think, John.
Yeah.
And I.
LastPass, and yeah. So it just keeps my username and passwords, and I don't have to remember them. And being guilty of not trying to think, so I had the same password or similar password or the same logic kind of a password, so I can remember what is this for. And now I don't have to do that. It's every time I say generate a password, generates a long, I don't know, 16-digit alphanumerical password, and it's all there. It's available on mobile and web and everywhere I go. So it has made things a lot more secure. Even works with the biometrics on my phone. So that's one of the things that I have been using. It's been a lot more convenient and secure. And I believe Dropbox is coming with their own version of that service as well.
It wouldn't surprise me. John, you had an incident where your son was dealing with somebody who was hacking passwords as just playing with it.
Just playing around with it. And I think he was able to do like a 33 or 47 character multi
to crack that one.
Yeah, and cracked it in like a couple minutes.
God.
So that's kind of scary. That really got me thinking. I'll tell you after.
Yeah, it definitely got me thinking too. So if the only thing you're doing is updating your antivirus software and filtering spam, you're still vulnerable to a number of different attacks. Now, the reason we chose this topic in particular was because you really need to protect your digital marketing assets. And I think that's one of the biggest things. You don't want stuff being taken down, particularly if you also have clients. Because if they attack and they take down stuff that you've been working on for your clients, it's a lot of work to reconstruct everything.
Yeah.
Are you scared yet, Kayvon?
Getting there.
I'm not.
You should be. John's not scared because he helped with his presentation.
I'm covered now.
You can predict the future.
But there was one time, I'd say like 4 years ago, one of our sites got hacked several times. Yeah. And then I went to a guy on Fiverr, and he recommended WP Shield. Changing over to a different WordPress plugin for security, I haven't been touched again.
Really?
Nice.
In years. And so that made a huge difference.
Very interesting.
Yeah, when it comes to that sort of thing, I make sure, like, for example, I used to do websites back in 98, 99, e-commerce and that sort of thing. So you had to do so many things on your own site. But these days, no, if there's a transaction, just go to PayPal and come back. Just go to Stripe and come back. Whatever I do is never as secure as they do. And as far as WordPress, I host it on WP Engine, and they, all of the backups and security, they do a much better job. I'm not even hosting my own email on my server. Google gives us a service,
let them deal with the security.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what I do, I can never be as close as to the level of security that they have. So just outsource.
Well, let's dig into half a dozen tips here to kind of protect your data and your website.
Sure.
We're talking about. So keep all your software updated. I think that's the most important things. Yeah. Well, like the WordPress stuff too, when they come out with different versions of WordPress, I know people hesitate a lot because you don't know if your plugins are going to be compatible.
Right. But you can always fix that. I mean, you can always ask your web developer, your hosting company to back you out of something that doesn't work correctly. So I wouldn't let that stop you. There's usually a lot of documentation on most of the new updates and upgrades that are out. Just, look them up and you'll see whether, for the most part, it's safe to move over or not. But I think the one that surprises me that's updated so frequently is Chrome.
Yeah,
Google Chrome gets a ton of new updates, so that's
no kidding.
Really watch, yeah.
It's been freezing on me, in fact, for the last several days. I keep having to force quit Chrome, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Our broadcast right now is coming through StreamYard on Chrome. I was almost tempted to go into Firefox.
Yeah.
But I just realized that little virus has little hooks there, almost like the COVID-19.
I think that's the other thing. Updates aren't perfect. So you may get an update from Microsoft that kind of screws things up. You might get an update from Chrome that messes things up a little
Or
bit.
from Apple.
Yeah,
on your iPhone.
Sure. I mean, it's important to have backups,
Yeah.
you know, of things and backup ways of getting back online. You know, like you said, use Firefox, perhaps, or Internet or Edge or whatever it might be to get back online.
Yeah, isn't Internet Explorer dead now?
It's Edge now. I know.
It's Edge.
I corrected myself. As
I wondered what Edge was. I thought it was. I thought it was like, you know, part of Bono and the Edge. You know,
I guess they were looking for a name that they still can recycle the E logo.
They wanted something edgy.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, so the thing about the notifications, I know this is very important. I've seen. I have been guilty of this in the past, and nowadays, when I get a notification, I do it that day or the next day within hours.
Very quickly, yeah.
Because usually it's an indication that there is a hacker, or there's a virus, or there's a Trojan horse, or there's something out there that's about to get you.
Yep.
And delaying it is sometimes pretty risky. So that's the key.
A few minutes ago, we talked about the WordPress plugins. That's another thing. Plugins or any piece of software, I always try to get them from bigger companies, reputable places, because even if they're upgrades to WordPress, they catch up. They always, stay compatible and that sort of thing.
In general, I would say that's actually true.
And make sure you get stuff from a trusted source too. You know, like sometimes there's a secondary source for something, and it'll be okay, but make sure that it's okay. Yeah. Because sometimes you get a lot of junk with a download for something that somebody else repackaged.
Yeah, I have to make sure that our newly minted 14-year-old doesn't play Russian games, Russian origin games on our website. That's been crazy trying to pull stuff out of there. Don't leave yourself vulnerable. I think that's the major thing. And installing all of your updates are very important, and just keep things moving along with whatever is current.
Yep.
You too know about SSL certificates more than I do, and this is really important.
And it surprises me how few people, well, I'm not gonna say how few, but there's an awful lot of sites that have not upgraded to SSL, and that kind of surprises me. In the vast majority of cases. Well, not even in the vast majority of cases, there is a version of SSL that's free. You can get Let's Encrypt for free, because that's the. I
don't think people know that, actually.
Yeah.
Where do we get that from?
Most of your hosting companies have that available, and actually, usually there's other free options too. It's not just Let's Encrypt, but there's several others. So there's no reason to delay it or not do it. In fact, in a lot of cases, it won't cost you anything to put in place.
It's interesting, because I had always heard that it was like $5 a year or $10 a year or something like that for an SSL.
You don't have to pay that.
Well, it's interesting. There's a free option, but I do know that Google penalizes your website if you don't have an SSL certificate. They really want that security in there.
They do. And the other thing that I notice a lot more is when I go to someplace and they don't have SSL.
Yeah. You're like,
you start to go
back out quickly.
Yeah. Well, yes, and not only that, but even friends that I've known for eons that don't have it updated, or they put you through another link, like a tracking link that doesn't have SSL, and then you get a message or that pops up on your computer and says, "Hey, this isn't secure." And so,
I remember my hosting server used to have the free SSL.
Yeah,
it might be hidden somewhere. I don't see it anymore. So one of these days, I have to go in there and look for it. I use one-on-one for domain registration. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, at least the SSL certificate allegedly will make it more difficult for a hacker to get in. But people still can break through. It's just a question of you want. In general, unless they're really determined hacker, from my experience, they'll go after easy targets before they go after the really hard ones. But the hard ones are often a challenge.
Yes.
So that's why you may go after a Fortune 500 company, a Fortune 5000 company,
or a gas pipeline.
Or a gas pipeline, for example.
You guys keep mentioning that. I don't know what's going on. What's going on with the gas pipeline?
Oh, this was in the U.S. It was the Colonial Pipeline. It transported gasoline from Texas, like Houston, Pasadena area, which is famous for all of its refineries.
Right.
And the gas, pumped gasoline all the way through the Southeast, including Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, clear on up through the Carolinas and into Virginia. And so they shut the whole thing down, demanding ransom.
Yeah.
And so some Russian hackers.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
20 million, I think. 20-some million.
Yeah, it was a lot of money, and they got paid. They paid
most of it back, I guess.
Yeah, but they got most of it back. But it was hard to. It's one of those things where, it's a weird business arrangement anyway, because the Colonial Pipeline is owned by several different entities, and it's just it's bizarre. But the bottom line was it cut off the gasoline supply, and people were hoarding gas all the way through the southeastern United States, along gas lines, price gouging, you name it.
And if lumber wasn't bad enough, then it was gas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but
when was this? How long ago?
A couple weeks ago, maybe a month.
Yeah, it was a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's not big news in Canada because Canadians have Petro-Canada. So.
No, I just don't follow news, so I don't know what's going on.
See, you miss out on all the exciting stuff of people hoarding things.
I know. We get a lot of that here.
A lot of hoarders. On this
I'm sure
episode,
we do too. I just don't know about it.
On the next episode of Hoarders, we go to New Hampshire. Yeah. Anyway, so this is one of my favorite topics out of all six, which is strong passwords. So the example that was given in Colbert the other night, I thought it was just funny because I watched these things on YouTube. Was he said it was very important to change your password, so he changed from password 123 to password 1234.
Oh,
so that was for an added layer of security.
Genius.
Genius, yeah.
What an idea to think about that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting. You really need to avoid certain phrases and other things that may be associated with you. Like I know people who put their birth dates in there and stuff like that. And it's just no. Just don't do it. You need to be super strong. And like Kayvon was saying, he has some randomly generated passwords that are strong. But then again, we know from John's son's experience that hackers are very determined.
Sometimes it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
I have a funny story about that. So, touch typing, 10-finger typing, I can do it both in Farsi and English.
Wow!
And I learned it in Farsi first. So my fingers remember where the letters are in a Farsi keyboard, but I don't have the stickers on my English keyboard. So I used to have this long Farsi sentence as my password that I would tip, just type it. And that's my password to get into my computer and other things. And the funny part is not even I knew what the password is. Because I don't know which keys I'm hitting. I don't know which my fingers know what they're typing. But I don't know which keys I'm hitting. And it's like
that's funny.
So it was the most secure password that not even I
Not
knew
even
what
you
my
know
password
your
was.
It was just wow.
Only the deepest corners of your neurology know that.
Yes. Yeah.
It is funny how, after all the years of like typing and all that, how we become so accustomed to the keyboard. It's, it's natural to us. And I could totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's certain patterns I like to use, but I love using special characters. That's one of my favorite things. So the question is, when was the last time you changed your password, your website password? I can confess to mine.
Go ahead.
I don't change anything unless the thing tells me, nope, you got to, unless I'm forced to change it, I'm not changing anything.
Yeah.
I changed mine 4 months ago. So
yeah, I was going to say, I do mine every couple of months. I was going to say.
Yeah, I think that, but do you tend to use randomly generated ones, or do you want to have stuff that you can actually remember without having to use Kayvon's finger technique?
I've been using much more randomly generated ones as of late. Ever since that whole thing happened with my son, and this one other group that I'm in, we have like a little kind of mastermind pod, and one of the women in it is a network security person, and so she's constantly talking about how quickly she can hack through things and get into this and get into that, and she made a lot of recommendations about stuff. So
it's pretty good. So for most of our small business people and small practice people, the answer usually is a hell of a long time ago or absolutely never. Yeah. And so in that case, you really want to do the things that are recommended normally, use upper or lowercase numbers, special symbols, things like that. What's surprising is there are certain websites that won't allow you to use special characters. And I think they really make their users or their members vulnerable.
Hmm.
That's one of the things. So
I
the use of special
can't think of any
characters.
website that does that. Like which one?
I've run into a couple, and they tend to be they're healthcare sites or government sites or things like that, or they restrict the special characters you can use. Like you can't use the @ or you can't use but they'll let you use a $sign, but or only these 5 special characters can you use.
Oh, I know a bank that you can't even do that. A bank.
Yeah, some of them they'll just let you use numbers and letters, and you can't use a special character.
I don't think I'm banking here anymore.
No, exactly. This is
it really does. In fact, that was one of the first things I saw. I had an account at a certain bank, and I was like, I don't really pay attention to their online password setup, but I had to go in and reset it. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea that you couldn't pick any special characters, and that really goes a long way to keep people out of your account.
Yeah. Do you trust when you have that little green bar at the bottom that says, oh, you have a moderate password, poor, and super strong? Because I look at sometimes when I get the message, this is strong, and I'm thinking to myself, no, it's not really that strong.
No, not really. And sometimes it could be like less letters and numbers or whatever.
Right.
Because then it doesn't really spell anything. And so it says, oh, that's a much stronger password. And I keep thinking, not really.
Not really. No, I mean, I could crack that one.
I don't think it's that much stronger.
If I could be wrong, but like these automatic password guessing applications, they one of the resources that they use is dictionary because to find
I think
words that are in there. So things like security questions that the bank asks you, what was the name of your I don't know, elementary school teacher, kind of a thing. Or one of my questions in my bank is a street that I was born in. First of all, I don't know which street I was born in. Right. But here's the thing. Let's say the thing that I want to put in there is a word that is a word in English. But if I can't if I know that word in another language, I use the other one, which is not part of the same. So I still remember what the thing is, but use a trick to type it in English letters in another language. Does that make sense?
I like the multilinguistic approach. That's really cool. Yeah. My dad used to take his chiropractic notes on patients in English words, but using ancient Greek letters. It is so hard to decipher his notes.
Yes.
Yep. It's really hard.
Or write with an accent.
Yeah. Or the little accent aigu.
I didn't mean that. Like there's some like my father is from this province in Iran that it's hard for them to pronounce the J, and sometimes it changes to G. So between J and G sound, they go back and forth. So if I think like write with his accent, so
write phonetically.
Yeah. Or like if you want to say, I don't know, the word is Georgia, use J's instead of G.
Georgia.
So it's kind of
whatever you do, make sure they're strong and update them on a regular basis. Yeah. That's the key. But this is, it's just something that I highly recommend complex passwords.
Yep, simple change.
This is one of the ones that I had never really thought about. And we talked about this at length, John and I, which was hiding your admin and login folders. That they're kind of like actually in plain sight on your website because people use these particular words like admin or login.
Yes.
And it's a great way for somebody to come in there and just find their way into all of that juicy data that you keep.
Yeah, don't use the username admin for admin.
Yeah, for God's sakes, no, because a lot of people do.
This is another thing that they say about cell phone security. Like your people that don't use your relationship. Like don't save it as hubby for husband or mom or that sort of thing. They just send a text to that person on your behalf if they have your phone,
right?
Or on the GPS, your home address. Don't save it as home,
right?
Because if somebody steals your car, they still. You're basically inviting them. This is my home address. Come and get my stuff too.
That's why the stuff on Facebook and Skype is so crazy. When people hack you, it looks like a trusted friend has, come in and done you in.
Yeah, because they have data that enables them to pretend to be a trusted friend.
Yeah, and it was funny. I remember this one time. A mutual friend of ours was on my Skype list, and somehow I don't know. I don't even remember clicking anything, but I got hacked on Skype, and I remember him going, "Why in the world does this happen?" I mean, and who thinks that this stuff actually works? And I said, "Oh yeah, I know. It wasn't me. It just somebody hacked into my account, and we're just kind of laughing about it after the fact." And he goes, "Yeah, the whole trusted friend thing," and it really, and we see it all the time, right? I mean, you can tell if one of your buddies got hacked because you get the Facebook, thing on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, request for a friend.
Yeah, or whatever. And we kind of laugh. I think you've been hacked. You might want to just check that out. Oh yeah, I know about that. I'm working on it, but it happens every day. I mean,
it's super common in a place like Facebook because you tend to have older members or participants, and they will use easy to remember passwords.
Yeah. So the other thing that I was going to suggest is anytime you get a chance to use two-factor authentication of any kind with any of these things, especially your bank accounts. I mean, a lot of them force you to do that. Your Facebook account, especially if you have advertising, I had to break into my own account late last year. Any of that stuff. And Facebook's particularly hard because they have no support. So they run you around the tree, oh, did you fill out this ticket? Did you fill out that ticket? You can never get a hold of anybody who can fix it or stop it. And that's even worse. So
do they make you run around a tree for that ticket?
Yeah, it was crazy. One form. I think somebody said Facebook has 25,000 forms or some nutty thing for customer support. And you would think you're filling out, I hate to rip on Facebook, but they deserve it. You would think that you're filling out the right form, and then they go, oh, you need to fill out this form. And then they send you the link to that form. And I'm like, but I got you right now. Why can't you help me or refer me to the right place? And they don't do that.
I think they want the so-called digital paper trail for the most part. They don't want to put anything at risk. And I think it's interesting because, by the way, Facebook, we love you because we're streaming on you right now to at least 5 locations.
I'm glad somebody does. Hey, but anyways, so then Mari Smith was talking, I know, the other day, and she said that there's going to be more support from Facebook. Thank goodness, because
allegedly
it's only a multi-billion-dollar company who can't support their users. But I think it's good that they're doing that because people doing advertising, they're spending money. You can't get a hold of a person if somebody's, taking advantage of your account. It's kind of a tragic scenario. But I'm glad to see that they're realizing that they have an issue and they're putting some support in place. It'd be fun to see what it actually is.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I mean, as far as your website is concerned, it's really important as far as admin and those types of things to make sure to disguise them, if you will, because you don't want people gaining access to your data through those types of things. So, I mean, you might want to call them, who knows? Call them fuzzy bastards, for example. You could call it fuzzy bastards, or you could call it, I don't know what, your favorite flavor of ice cream or something totally innocuous. Like
somebody might guess that.
Well, they might, but I think if you labeled more than, say, just the admin and the login folders, you could really confuse the hell out of a potential hacker. If you renamed half a dozen folders, that might discourage them a bit more.
I find too, anything that requires you to put in, extra security questions, I try to make sure now that I go out of my way to find stuff that people wouldn't be able to readily look up or find about me.
I have something like I was using, I'll give you an example. This is not quite right, but it's pretty close. I was using the maiden name of my second grade elementary school teacher.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty hard. She got married. She got married during second grade, and I never remembered her married name, but I remember the maiden name.
That's funny. Mine did too. I can't remember her. I can't remember maiden. I can't remember the other one. So that's
I can't remember the married name, but I remember the maiden name.
I'm the other way. I remember the married name and not the maiden name.
So those are the types. If you could make them totally obscure like that, you're going to do very, very well. Or you can do like Kayvon does, which is just to create do your passwords and you name all your folders in Farsi using an English keyboard.
Yeah, that's cool.
I got to learn Farsi first before I can actually do that.
You can't do anything with you, Kayvon.
Esperanto. Let's do it in Esperanto or Klingon.
Klingon, they've been better. Klingon with an English keyboard. So,
Ooh, that sounds
pretty good. I mean, and so that, of course, hackers can still find these folders, but if you put a few obstacles in the way, they're less likely, and it's not as much fun for them to have to go through all the folders. They still, there's a certain joy in finding those little Easter eggs very easily. So, you were just talking about this, John, the two-factor.
I'm ahead of the curve.
I like the biometric stuff too. I really do, because not too many of us actually have our retinas or our irises scanned these days, but fingerprint identification and face identification is pretty close. I'm just wondering, does face identification work if you have a photo of the person? Like a 3D photo? I would wonder if that might not work.
Don't know. But I'll have to try it sometime.
Try it sometime.
What about twin brothers?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so there's other forms on your website too that are sometimes vulnerable. Potentially they're potential entry points for an attacker. And injecting malicious code, I found that in particular, for me, it was less about viruses than it was Trojan horses. I had more trouble with Trojan horses than anything else. What about you, John? Or is that not your case?
I think I've had trouble with both.
With both of them, yeah. So to submit forms on your website, you really want to have a little bit more security in doing that. And then, as far as forms go, you could go as far as to do double validation for form data. And in that way, you're going to help those people who are the real folks ensure that the data that they enter in the form is properly formatted. And secondly, you're going to prevent all these bad people from sticking harmful code into your site. So, this one, John, you're familiar with this. Actually, Kayvon too, since you were doing a lot of work minimizing people having admin access to your site. Ad accounts too. I remember not too long ago, I found somebody's name in one of our sites, and they hadn't worked for us for 2.5 years. So I quickly got rid of them. But sometimes we just forget.
Yeah, and you never know. I mean, I even had friends that misused their access in certain cases, and so I mean, you just never know. You may think it's no big deal, I'm friends with that person, but then things change. So
have you ever found this, Kayvon, that sometimes you got old admins who might interfere in a website?
I have done it myself. No,
you've done it yourself.
That brings back some memories.
Flashbacks.
No, I don't think so. I had current admins making mistakes and not admitting it, which is another thing. But no, not old admins. And I guess I have this habit of going in and deleting the account or changing the passwords and that sort of thing. But I wasn't thinking security. Like when I was changing passwords, I was thinking, okay, I need to have access to that thing, so I'm gonna change it to a password that I remember, not that person's password.
Right.
But I guess it has the benefit of security as well.
I have to admit too, though, that I had one particular admin password that I'd given to an outsourcer, and I kept it there, but I changed the password. And I'm glad I did have a second admin password, because somehow I couldn't recover the first admin password I had. So I did have another way to get into the site. So in some ways, it's actually good to have a second password, just for the reason, who knows?
I saw that with a hosting company, Liquid Web, because they had different passwords. There were multiple password layers when I was using them. So the fewer people that you have, the better off you're going to be in terms of safety and security. And even if you go away from your website, let's say that you're talking about, say, a Facebook page, you can have people, you grant very few admin privileges to people, but you can have editors, contributors, other more restrictive levels of activity.
Right. I was going to say one thing that kind of got me in a little bit of a jam with that particular issue I had on Facebook in my ads account is that I was also doing ads for a friend of mine. And so because my account was vulnerable, they were able to sort of start to enter his. Fortunately, they didn't, but I could have left a bad situation for him too.
Yeah, there are a lot of bad people out there, and you need to protect yourself and your clients, because they can come through your website and head over to your clients, and that's not really good for coaching or consulting.
No, very bad. So you want to really keep watch of that.
You will be emphasizing your no hate and distrust factor
very quickly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Deleting users who no longer work for you is very important, and then requiring every user to also use their own password, and they should update those regularly too, because they may get a little lazy and do the password 123 instead of adding 1234. So
I had a Slack account for clients and that sort of thing, and just yesterday I just got in there and noticed that so many old clients are still there, so I just basically went over the whole list and deactivated a bunch.
Yeah, because you never know, and sometimes it's not the client; it's somebody else takes over, and uses, say, client's email or so. And so I mentioned earlier, just to hit this on talking about your administrators, and you got to let all your team members know how important it is to protect data, because that's going to be their paycheck. If you lose control over your data, and you are for example, in local marketing, we have digital marketing assets, but if you have, say, your client's personal information, and this is the thing, you don't have to be a big company to be a target. We've seen that. I was mentioning the bot attack not too long ago, and this bot attack was coming from one of our clients. It was coming from France, Russia, and elsewhere, and filling out his forms on his website to gain access, to get a freebie of some sort. I think it was a checklist for digital marketing, something like that. And as a result, his email service provider was flagging him for spam emails. So what was happening is the bots were taking old emails from different places like Verizon and AT&T and all these other things, even the phone number things where you'd see, area code such and such at vtext.com for Verizon. They were taking all these old emails or emails that hadn't been used very frequently and just loading up his site with these emails, such that every time he sent out a newsletter, he was getting spam complaints that were above the desired amount of the email service provider, and as a result, his account was being flagged.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, his account was being flagged for spam. So,
wow.
And it's like, so the temporary solution that he initiated was to get his email
provider
host, also his host, to get the email thing, to explain it to the email people. But also what he did was he had his hosting company ban all traffic from France and Russia. Which is interesting. Yeah. So they just put up you Frenchies, you're not going to get in, even though Bastille Day may be next month, but you're not coming in. And that was just a temporary measure, and we still haven't figured out what his long-term strategy is going to be, other than CAPTCHA and the double opt-in. But the double opt-in is going to tank his email subscribers. So that's rough.
Wow,
pretty rough.
Indeed.
So website security should be your priority.
Certainly should.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing that we mentioned before, that, if you have a medium-sized or small-sized business, you think that you're not a target. Au contraire, mon frère. As we find out from our clients, our clients encounter with the French, au contraire, they can gain all kinds of information. What was that? I'm sorry.
That's a good password, au contraire.
Au contraire. In Farsi.
Yes.
So...
Spell it with K.
Exactly. With the K. KK. Okay. So the whole thing about, you were talking about earlier, John, about your reputation, how your reputation can be affected with these types of things. And we talk about know, like, and trust. Nothing breaches trust more than having your data breached.
Right. And especially, like I said, going to these sites that don't have SSLs, because you start to go, I mean, what's the safety if I buy something from them, or, whatever the situation might be.
Yeah. I mean, you can be an open book. I mean, think about all the companies like Experian and other credit bureaus have been breached, or Target. All the people who didn't want to shop at Target for more than a year or so because of the data breach that was several years back. So, that was our little. That's what we did with our contact info. As you can tell, we're in Hudson, New Hampshire, and Coronado. So
we're everywhere.
I'm gonna bounce out of this. Boom. Where are we? There we are. Hello. Hello. So, any more things you can think of? Passwords. How do we protect ourselves? A digital condom. Do they exist?
Most probably somewhere.
Somewhere there's a digital condom that prevents your site from propagating.
Well, we have what is it, over the internet sex? So there must be.
Oh boy.
Condom too.
Oh boy. Huh. Yeah, I think that the interesting thing is we did find that at one point that with a youngster in the house that, look at the free games with the from a .ru website. And we're like, no, we are not doing any .ru's. I am sorry, or .cn. That's not.
And many of these popular apps that look how makes your face older when you are 90 years old or whatever. Yeah. It's basically they're scanning all of our faces for free.
Well, it's funny you should mention that. I think one of the most common ones that I hear complained about a lot by my friends who are very security conscious is all the games on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Because anytime you play one of those games, you're sharing your friend's information with whoever that provider is of whatever that game or puzzle or whatever is. So it might be fun for a moment, but you're sharing all your friends' data with that particular app.
Yes.
And so that's not cool. So your friends might not be too excited about that.
No, I was just thinking sharing is caring. So I was about to put in a Clubhouse thing because I forgot to do it today.
Yeah, speaking of that,
talk amongst yourself.
Oh, that's all right.
Chrome extensions.
Yeah.
For certain functionalities, I do the same thing. Like I make sure that they have lots of downloads, lots of reviews, and that sort of thing. So it's not because the Chrome extension is going to have permissions and access to certain things, like your camera and microphone and contacts and that sort of thing. So again, getting it from a trusted source or reputable source, something that looks good and legitimate, because it's not just support, it's security as well.
Right.
Yeah. I'm calling this cybersecurity protecting your marketing assets.
Yes.
This is the marketing happy hour. Hey, so what marketing campaigns are you doing lately, Kayvon, that seem to be working? I'm just curious off the top of your head. Are you using ads or just mostly networking? No.
I tried ads on Instagram for a while last year. Didn't get much of a valuable information from it, mostly to my own fault of not really approaching it scientifically and all of that. So, but more I think about ads is that I see how more valuable that initial target audience or avatar definition, or there's a term for it, audience definition and criteria helps a lot, because I have had ads before that I get some responses, but they are not the kind of people that I'm looking for.
Right.
And when I look at it, I said, it's my own fault. I was trying to do it quickly. I was lazy. And no, I like to spend my time on audience definition, then try something.
Yeah, I can recall. I mean, in terms of selecting the right audience, I think that's a topic for another session, because I did one of those like campaigns many years ago. I may have mentioned this before, and I got plenty of cheap clicks. I mean, some of them were like 1,000th of a cent and that sort of thing. The only problem was that they were from places all over the world, and so I had a lot of Egyptians. I had a lot of people from Nepal and other countries that were, very inexpensive clicks, but that wasn't my audience. And so I wound up with almost 18,000 people who weren't my audience. And I tried to delete them, but Facebook only let me go down by about 5,000, and I could no longer delete people because I was pretty much stuck at, I think, 12,000. Yeah.
Wow.
And change. Yeah. So
but speaking of
get rid of people,
like audience building or audience definition, I I really like to go deeper with that. So I don't know
I
how
think
much
it's a
you
good
guys have
topic.
experience with that, or among your network of friends, you have someone to bring as a
Lots of
guest.
people.
I don't know. I'm in the thick of audience identification right now with a couple.
There we go. So
yeah, so we've been working on that a lot.
So,
Talking about our avatar.
are we having a session about that next week?
We could.
We could
Yeah.
do that. I think audience building is like one of the biggest things in the world, and it really is.
It's probably the most important thing that we do.
Yeah, it's going beyond the know, like, and trust factors to get to the point where people are emotionally connected to you. And I think that's where you start getting your enthusiasts and your raving fans,
right?
Because they're the ones who are going to carry you and your business forward, and they're the ones who are also going to protect you in case other people start attacking you. I've seen that.
It's developing the congruency around that avatar so that everything kind of blends together with it and makes perfect sense for what you're trying to attract.
So what do we say here? There are lots of bad actors online. How do you protect your marketing, your digital
presence,
marketing assets? Oh,
assets.
Speaking of Clubhouse, I won't be able to join you today.
What?
Yeah, sorry. I should have mentioned this earlier. Like
I'll put on my sad face.
That's so sad. I feel sad now. But I'm entertaining myself with free games on Facebook.
Oh, that's good.
No, I'm not.
What? That's it. Delete it. Vogelmann.
I really like that whole idea of audience building, and I'm sure
audience building. Yeah,
let's talk about it over social media as well. So more people come to this our call and our next week's.
Well, we can even set it up. I can do it not so much today, but I can do it tomorrow. You can actually, because I was on a StreamYard session today. John, you may have joined me at one point, didn't you? Or?
Yeah, for a couple minutes.
Yeah, for a couple minutes. So, but I was on there for the balance of it, for the lion's share of it, and it was interesting how they talked about you can promote on Facebook, for example, a week ahead of time, but not a week and 1 minute. Because it has to be exactly a week or less. And they talked about doing different promos. And I think we could try doing promos for the future where we're using Instagram, for example, Instagram Lives. I know that a couple people put something on Instagram Live just before they go live on Facebook, for example, because that actually draws more people in, because a lot of times people pay attention more to Instagram than they do Facebook, depending on your audience.
There we go. We were doing LinkedIn events for a while.
I didn't do a LinkedIn event this week. In fact, I didn't do any events this week.
Yeah.
And so, but that actually, anytime you put an event down, it does seem
all of those things will help.
It stimulates the algorithm.
Yep.
Everywhere. So I think that's what we'll do in the future. So I guess we're going to be
basically a stimulus package.
It is our stimulus package, and it's free.
Indeed.
So I guess I don't know. Can you use? Oh, my question was, can you use hashtags on Clubhouse? I've never used one.
I think so. I've seen people use them.
Let's do cyber security.
I don't know.
What other hashtags can you think of, gentlemen? This is what we do. This is live. Cybersecurity.
It's like a co-working situation.
Protect. Yeah, this is our co-working space right now.
This is kind of
protect your data.
Protect your business.
What else? Protect your business. Small business. I don't know.
Hashtag beyond hackers.
HIPAA. Beyond HIPAA. Hacker.
Yeah, it's certainly that.
How about we call it a hacker hack?
I was saying your father had a unique method of HIPAA security.
Oh yeah, nobody could decipher that stuff. I tried deciphering it. I had some idea of ancient Greek, but see, the other thing is you had to count on his handwriting too. His handwriting was different than mine. So if you look at the handwriting and say doctor's handwriting layered into ancient Greek characters, by the way, not modern Greek, ancient Greek characters, doctor's handwriting, English words, that
could be a challenge.
I would challenge those Navajo code talkers to break that one.
Oh, yeah.
So
speaking of doctor's handwriting, my father, his handwriting is typical doctor's. Like his prescription, sometimes even the pharmacy would return his prescription. You know what? We always look at doctor's handwriting, but this is something else, man. Some other level. We don't know what you're saying here. There has been situations that he would call me, "Hey, Kayvon, can you look at this and see what I wrote here?"
What did I write?
Wow.
What did I write?
Actually, that has happened to me. I have a note that I was looking at the other day. This isn't the one, but it was, I couldn't read my own writing. And it was this,
special
like,
something.
Yeah, something special, but that wasn't the one. But when I go fast in cursive, I have trouble reading what I'm doing. But so I've gravitated now towards printing instead, where I would, as opposed to cursive writing.
I have a friend, he can only write in all caps.
Really? My dad wrote in all caps a lot.
Not only not cursive and printing, but also everything he writes is all caps.
Interesting.
Yes.
Have you? I'm starting to think now. I'm like, have I ever seen a doctor's handwriting that was not typical? You know.
Oh, my dad's was quite legible.
Your dad's was quite legible.
Really?
Mine was the same way because I don't know if you guys. I love Persian calligraphy, so I practice calligraphy and all of that. So there has been situations that the pharmacy would return my prescriptions when I wrote them. That they say, there is no way that this is not written by a doctor. We can read this.
Yeah.
So
it's
ask
too
the doctor.
beautiful.
So I would do like then they would give him the prescription.
Because it is quite a
That's
common
hilarious
thing. I'm like, I'm like, I know I can't read my doctor's handwriting.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it.
Well,
See, I will do my problem with it is that I will do things like I'm writing in all caps, like implement, but you'll see that the letters connect.
Yeah.
And that becomes a little difficult at times.
Yes.
So. But
it
my
starts
dad's
with very legible, like imp, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. So
I do the same thing. I also go upwards. Like
that's because you're very optimistic. Going upward is very optimistic.
Everything is taking off.
The people who go downward, that's considered within graphology to be a sign of pessimism and emotional negativity. So
now for me, everything is a hockey stick.
Everything's a hockey stick. So in simplify.zone, you're always on an exponential curve.
There you go.
Exponential growth with Coach K. All right, I think we're done.
We are done.
We are done. I've got the room ready.
Nice.
Good. There you go.
I mean, I already invited you, Kayvon. So
yes,
I feel a bit
jaded.
Yeah, I'm jaded.
I don't know.
Peeved that you've announced after I created it.
Fished.
I feel urinated upon. All right. Well, with that lovely note, I think we're ready to close out for today. Hey, any final thoughts about keeping the bad people away from your stuff?
Don't go to suspicious websites.
Don't go to suspicious sites.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Don't just click anything. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look for SSL.
Yeah, just skate with your head up. Common sense.
Skate with your head up. Don't skate with your face on the ice.
Common sense rules the day, right? That's
about the links in the email. I always hover first
metaphor
to see what the
URL hovering is a great idea.
That is a good idea.
Like for example, even if it says google.com, you hover and you see the website URL is something else somewhere else. So that hovering is a good habit that I have.
The Facebook friend requests, when you see that it's some long URL that you've never seen before, and your friend actually had the right URL. Yeah,
I'm starting to even look at congruency with people's emails that I trust, because I've still had issues with people's emails that I trust, and that's why those phishing scams and things work so well, is because of the trust factor.
Well, yeah, and if you suspect something fishy.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Fishy shirt.
The fishy shirt. I should have announced that earlier, actually.
I see.
Something fishy.
Yeah, but just make sure the URLs make sense.
Yeah.
That you're going to where you think you should be going to and all of that.
I love Kayvon's hover idea. We just have to find hovercraft. We're going to get flying cars someday. Yep. All right. We will be back again next Wednesday for another episode of the Marketing Happy Hour. Join us -1 on Clubhouse. We're going to continue our discussion.
And our topic is going to be audience building. Audience defining.
Next week.
Right now, Clubhouse, we're continuing about how to protect your digital marketing assets from bad actors.
But yeah, let's do that next week. Audience building.
Audience building is next week. So
sounds good.
I will turn to both of you gentlemen for your expertise, as well as to some of our friends who are the gurus in audience building. So
sounds good.
I'm not sure we can get an interview right away. That may be sometime in the future, but I know
We'll see.
2 people who would be able to help out.
Well, let's reach out and see what they say.
Yeah.
The issue is short notice. So I find you have to book them. It's like 2 or 3 months in advance.
Oh.
We can do part 1. Part 2 can be bring the expert in. So I have no trouble with that. But because by the time 90 days or more rolls around, many of you will have already forgotten that our topic was audience building 3 months ago. So
we can basically just recycle and repurpose.
Pretty much. We're recycling, repurposing, and going for it. Hey, those of you who are watching this on the replay, and we know most of you do, please use the hashtag replay. And if you have any other questions that you'd like us to cover, topics or things like that, just plunk them down below this video. You can also go to the Marketing Happy Hour Facebook page and hit us up on private messages too, because we do respond. So
if you like our broadcast, share with your friends.
Share, because as Barney said, sharing is caring. And who doesn't love a purple dinosaur? Most parents.